Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ninth episode of the iDebate server. I'm moderator tonight, unit, and the topic will be round two of Is the Earth Flat? Arguing in the affirmative is iFunny user FlatRoast, while arguing in the negative is iFunny user 2. Each
Not iPhone user.
opening, that's what the script says. Argument, a 5 minute opening argument. After each debater has given their opening, they will then have 10 minutes to review their opponent. After rebuttals, they will have 20 minutes of open dialogue, asking each other questions with as minimal interruptions as possible. After the dialogue, they will both offer a 5 minute closing. This will conclude the debate, at which point we will allow audience members to connect and ask questions to the debaters. This debate will only answer questions they are directly asked. I'm sorry, this is confusingly worded. So if you wish to hear both people answer, make sure to ask both of them. The Q&A will last 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes has expired, the recording will stop, so any further discussion between the debaters or the audience will not be included in the YouTube channel. The rules are quite simple. The debaters will not be allowed to go over time during opening, or they will be muted. Rebuttal, however, will be given 15 to 20 seconds of overlap, since the debaters will likely be creating it as we go along. The open dialogue will be as free as possible, while the debaters are restricted from directly insulting one another at any point during the exchange. Profanity will not be censored as long as it is not used gratuitously. If the conversation between debaters becomes incoherent, I, the moderator, will intervene to bring it back to a point at hand. The closing will also last for no more than 5 minutes for the debater waited. During each phase of the debate, I will let the debaters know when they have 1 minute left, 30 seconds left, 10 seconds left, and if they're still talking after their time expires, they will be muted and we'll move on to the next phase. The audience is allowed to utilize the debate text check to fact check the debaters and deliberate the topic amongst themselves. However, you will not be allowed to connect until the Q&A, at which point a queue will be initiated for you to join if you wish to ask a question. If debaters understand and agree to the rules, we will go ahead and begin. FlatRoast, since you're arguing in the affirmative of this motion this evening, you will be given your first. You will be given your opening argument first. You may start when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready. So, good evening, people. My ball and flat Earth people. Tonight, I started a little bit differently. I actually did prepare for this one mildly, as much as I can. And before this debate, Ted52 kind of expressed a few different things he wanted to talk about, and tonight he kind of narrowed it down to the night and day cycle. And for me to be able to narrow that down, we need to talk about light. Briefly at least. And to talk about light briefly, the first thing I want to mention tonight would be the properties of light that we know of today by modern science, or what I like to call modern pseudoscience, are not really what we observe, or what real scientists like Nikola Tesla, like Faraday, like Oliver Heaviside, what they saw with their experimentation. As a matter of fact, science nowadays is not considered science whatsoever. It's really considered pseudoscience, and that's actually been stated by Dr. Michio Kaku himself, where he states liberally that astrophysics has nothing to do with the scientific method. And if we research what pseudoscience is it's a field of science that does not relate itself to the scientific method. So in regards to that, we what I like to always concentrate on is when people say the word science, that we actually are speaking about science, something that's observable, repeatable, and falsifiable. And that's something that astrophysics just does not have. One of those things, and one of the things that I like to always bring up, is the inverse square law. The inverse square law is kind of one of these things that we just know it's a law. We've tested it over and over again, experiment here on Earth, and we know it exists. And the inverse square law pretty much debunks half of the things that NASA even talks about. The inverse square law starts to um, break down all notions that we ever even went to the moon, break down all notions that the stars are trillions of light years away, or billions, or even 1 light year away for that matter. So when we really start looking into the inverse square law, things like the moon, right? So the moon has a lux reading here on Earth of zero point zero 0.01 lux. If we apply the inverse square law, that means that the astronauts would have been landing on something like the surface of the sun. It would have been 1.47 times 10 to the 16th power. That's 14.7 quadrillion lux. Okay, landing on that would have been virtually impossible. So things like Also, we've measured the distance to the moon with lasers. The lasers also fit under the inverse square law, and lasers would not make it to the moon and be able to bounce back. It's just impossible, okay, due to the inverse square law. So that's kind of what I'm going to concentrate tonight around. The inverse square law also kind of depicts exactly what the flat Earth model is. There's a sun side, and there's a hot plasma side, and there's a cold plasma side. The cold plasma is the moon, the hot plasma is the sun, obviously, and they each rotate around the Earth. The Earth is smaller than what you guys think it is, because when you think about it as a ball with a 25,000 mile diameter, it seems kind of ridiculous. But when you actually put the real diameters of the ball of the flat Earth, which is 60,000 miles, okay, and you might start understanding that a sun with the same angular size in the sky as the moon might not actually reach. The light might not actually reach all the way around due to atmospheric occlusion, due to just the atmosphere altogether, due to the inverse square law, how light dissipates throughout distance. So these are all things that once, if we really understand it correctly and we really get down to it, the inverse square law breaks it all down. I'll continue, on later on with more of that, but that's my opening statement.
You're done? Okay.
Yeah, that's my opening statement.
Oh,
Ted, are you ready?
yeah, that was a logical fallacy that is known as a gish gallop. Anyway, so I am here. So I'm not gonna in my opening statement, because this was not an opening statement, it was like a policy declaration. So generally, I am here to defend the well-established position that has been held since at least 2,300 years, that the Earth is spherical. To be precise, it's what's called an oblate spheroid, meaning that the equatorial axis is a bit longer than the polar axis by about 0.335%, but generally it can be imagined as a sphere. Such observations of the Earth being spherical were made in the early times of human civilization in ancient Europe, specifically ancient Greece, in the Islamic world, in ancient India, in ancient Mesoamerica, ancient Mesopotamia, and ancient China. So I am here to defend this conventional, rational, well-established, reasonable model, and I'm also here to defend the reputation of essentially every human being who has worked in this field in the past 2,300 years. Among them, actually, one that my opposition mentioned, Mr. Kaku, Mr. Tesla as well, I believe. With Mr. Tesla, it's harder to say, but Michio Kaku, who my opponent mentioned, is of course a defender of the globe Earth model, because while he is a public science advocate, more so than like a conventional scientist, he is of course, he still does science at least. So to name someone who openly supports the globe Earth model as someone who discredits science, I don't know. I guess like even in the eyes of scientists and pseudoscientists, as the opposition calls it, I guess the Earth is still a globe even to them. That's fine. So beyond this whole conspiracy thing, which obviously needs to be brought up, to this idea that the Earth is flat is not only an astronomical idea, and the opposition of course has it made very astronomical, and I try to put down every single one of these insane talking points, keeping track. It was a lot of information in a very small time. Didn't quite catch everything. I want to note that the something was factually wrong. The opposition said that the globe model says that the Earth is 12,000 miles in diameter. I believe that that this is incorrect. So the globe Earth model asserts that the Earth's radius is 6,300 kilometers, which is a diameter of 12,600 kilometers. But if you convert that to miles, I think that's 8,000, but that's fine. Who cares about a few thousand miles, right? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this debate, and thank you for having me. And I would like to jump in right with everything that has been asserted about the light and the moon and the sun and plasma and lots of miles and atmospheric occlusion and the inverse square law and some looks and some repeatable falsified things and pseudoscience and everything, because that was a lot that my opposition just threw at me in the opening statement. So let's get into it. Thank you very much. Yep, I'm done.
All right. Uh, Flat roast. It's time for your rebuttal, which will be 10 minutes long. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
How do I post things in the chat? So like links.
Just copy and paste it.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the regular. I mean, I don't even know if I'm in the right one here. I guess it might be a dumb question. Sorry, guys, but
Go general.
okay. Let me see. I'll just do this here and let's see if you guys get it. You guys got that?
Declaring the end from the beginning, part 9 of
Yeah,
20.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So let me just give you where to see it. This is the, you're telling me that Michio make that claim. So, um, this is just the proof there. So, um, so my rebuttal to that would be, first of all, I did not talk about the diameter. If I did say the word diameter, I apologize. I meant circumference. I meant 25,000 mile circumference. I think I said circumference because hold on a second. There's something going on. Yeah, I think I said circumference because I wouldn't use the word diameter for the flat Earth either way. I would use the word circumference there. So the difference in circumference from 25,000 to 60,000 miles when you have to flatten it out is what I meant. Um, when you start thinking about things like that, then the sun obviously uh, is not as powerful as we might think it is. So a lot of the observations that you said, from ancient, I would love to see proof because ancient times they all thought the Earth was flat. If you look at Sumerian texts, they believe the Earth to be flat. If you really start digging back, the main people that started bringing up the ball earth were all contracted by the church. If you really look at it, Aristophanes did his experiment, and his experiment, if you have a presupposition that the earth is already a sphere, and you want the heliocentric model because helio, the sun, is what you're worshiping, and you're also worshiping Saturn and things like that. If that's what you're going to have that presupposition, then yeah, I mean the trigonometry can fit. You just got to put the sun 93 million miles away to make it work. Now, if you use a smaller close sun, at that point the trigonometry works just as well. It just all depends on how you see it, and how you said before we even started the debate, the cognitive dissonance, or uh, pretty much just the plain bias. Later on, the church then came up with, another priest to bring up his Copernican model, and the Copernican model pretty much it was meant mainly to take away the actual um, the divine nature of the human being, the divine nature that God made us in His image and He loves us, and it was to take that away, and it was to put us into a small little nothing on a huge thing that's still a small nothing in the middle of a small nothingness. And Nikola Tesla said it himself, when you start reificating that lie, like Einstein had to reificate that lie. Albert Einstein he had to make space into something. He had to bring space up and he had to give properties to something that has no properties. When you're talking about space, it's like talking about the hole in the donut, right? It has no properties. Nikola Tesla said it himself. Okay. This has been reaffirmed. Nikola Tesla was just reaffirming what Faraday used to say. Space has no properties. So when you really think about it, and I know this one you're going to refute wildly, and I know what you're going to say. You're going to say Michael and Morley, it was a failed experiment, and that's what they'd like you to think. And the only reason they make you think that is because Albert Einstein came up with his theory of relativity, which is pretty much, a fool's errand already. Yes, there's relative motion, but theory of relativity has pretty much been debunked over and over again. There's so many different fallacies involved in it. And either way, he stole most of it from other people. So, and all that I could post here if you guys want me to post. I could post links to all that. Now, um, if what you're going to try to say with the inverse square, I mean, I could literally bring out the calculations for you. Okay. Where we know that NASA lied about the moon landings just with the inverse square law. And if NASA and most of the other space agencies that have supposedly landed things on the moon and things like that, if they are all saying that they still have done this, so that means they lied to us. If they lied to us, why? right? You're asking me why the conspiracy. I'm asking you, why do they lie to us? We know they have, right? We see the moon lander pictures. We see there's no crater underneath the moon lander. How'd the moon lander land? It just plopped on the moon. You also have people like Werner von Braun, which is he is the father of rocketry, right? The NASA father of rocketry that came over from Germany. You should know him, right? And he was master at rockets. We brought him over with Operation Paperclip. And Werner von Braun said himself, it would take 3 rockets the size of the Empire State Building, 800 kiloton rockets, or 80,000 kiloton rockets, sorry. 3 of them just to get to the moon, and let alone come back. There's not enough fuel, he said. There's not enough fuel to get anywhere. So he himself, I mean, let's not even talk about what he's put on his tombstone. He has Psalms 19 on his tombstone, which pretty much states it all. If you guys want to go read it, and I never tell people what the verse is. I always urge people to go read the Bible and go see what he said. Um, but just people like him, and it's in itself kind of debunk the whole, we went anywhere theory. And if we didn't, and if we haven't left low Earth orbit, then why lie? And that's my question, to you. You say, why the conspiracy? I could tell you reasons for the conspiracy right now. The conspiracy is simple. NASA makes $22.6 billion a year, which represents 0.48 of the nation's $4.7 trillion budget. Okay, that comes out to about $62 million a day. Okay, you got JAXA, right? The Japanese agency. They make about $4.5 million a day. Okay, German aerospace, $3.8 billion a year. Okay, if they're not using this money for the rockets and to go into space, imagine what they could be using the money for, right? And that's the real, and that's just one part of it. Okay, I mean, we got things like Admiral Byrd going back. This whole thing, all of this started right after 1958, and if you look at things before 1958, like for example, I'm about to post on here on the chat, so you guys can see it, and it's a link to a lady that finds an encyclopedia, the Encyclopedia of Americana, before 1958. And when you look up Antarctica in that encyclopedia, it talks about a dome 1,300 miles into the sky, or 1,300 meters maybe into the sky, something like that. Don't 13,000 or something. Don't quote me on that. But it talks about a dome in Antarctica.
13,000 feet.
13,000 feet. So you've read it, okay?
Yep, I'm gonna dunk on you on that. Please continue.
Oh, okay, sure. So if they talk about the dome there, okay, and now all of a sudden, right after 1958, we start preparing the Antarctic Treaty. We start preparing. Now 12 countries signed it. Afterwards, I think it's a total of 56 countries that have signed it afterwards. It's almost impossible to go down to Antarctica, and I can show you videos of a gentleman. His channel is named Taboo Conspiracy. He's broken it down to where you could see through government paperwork. It's impossible to go down there. It's if you were to do the research, you couldn't even take a sled with dogs, because they would expect you to pick up the excrement and take it with you. You have to have to lug around your own poop, while trying to traverse, these crazy temperatures of Antarctica. So you guys ask us to find the edge. There is no edge, because we wouldn't even be able to go look if there is. A lot of us don't even believe there is one. So, but where there is an edge, there is a geographic edge on a globe, right? So your distance to the horizon, you can figure that out. There's all kinds of apps online, and I could show you a video which I'm going to post on here right now, from the same channel, Taboo Conspiracy, where it blows your distance to the horizon when you're measuring it on a ball or a globe. It blows it out of the water. Okay, your distance to horizon when you're measuring where he's about to measure this on the video, is 1 foot above the water. He's 1 foot above the water. Distance to horizon there would be about 20 feet. Okay, about 20 feet before the curvature, it drops off before you reach the geographical edge of the globe there. Okay, and he can see about 9.3 miles out and see the whole tower out there. It's one of these oil refinery towers. So these are things that just blow the curvature map, or blow the curvature calculation out of the water. I'm sure you can fudge up the math. We can fudge up all kinds of math, but that's all pseudoscience does nowadays, is make the math look pretty. But they can't. Math only describes. Math does not explain. So math can never. I'm sorry.
You got less than a minute left. Sorry, I didn't tell you.
Okay. So math does not explain, and just because you make the math look pretty doesn't mean that it signifies what we see in reality. Science, at the end of the day, has to be observable, has to be measurable, has to be repeatable, has to be falsifiable, and these are things that astrophysics, astronomy, geology, they can't do these things. These are things that they cannot go back in time and measure things. They cannot go to these stars that are trillions of miles away and measure them. They can't do any of that. They use spectroscopy, and that's a laughing matter, because when I've used it in the lab, it's a super contained environment, but they're shooting it through atmosphere and getting and knowing exactly what the Venus atmosphere of Venus is made of. That stuff is laughable. But for somebody that doesn't understand that, it's solid science. So I'll end there, and I'll let Ted rebuttal.
All right, Ted, you ready?
All right, let's do it. So I tried to keep track with you again. Very fast talker, but I think I got it all. So first of all, you asserted that ancient civilizations knew the Earth to be flat. I don't know like how far we have to go back to be ancient, but starting in Mesopotamia, you cited the Sumerians. Starting in Mesopotamia, we have at least evidence that they used circular shapes for the Earth. It's not that strong, I admit. But with the 350s BC, we have Exodus of Cnidus in ancient Greece, who suggested the shape of the Earth to be spherical. Heraclitus Ponticus in the 340s BC suggested the rotation of the Earth around its axis. That's in Greece BC. You cited the Church as like the I assume you mean the Catholic Church. You cited the Church as like
Yeah, I meant the Catholic Church.
the force behind that. 350s BC was 350 years before Jesus Christ was born, so the Catholic Church couldn't have intervened there. And of course, the Greeks are not the only ones who made this observation. You have Aryabhata in ancient India with his Aryabhatiya in 499, and he in there describes also a spherical Earth that rotates on its axis. So the church, then they worship Saturn, I think. Copernicus modeled by the church, that's fine. And then you said something about like the divine image taken away from the people by the church. I didn't quite get that. I think I would think, and you can explain this later if you want, but I would think that like the church would probably profit from like the people feeling like especially anointed by God. Like they probably wouldn't want anything that like detracts them from being God's chosen people. Then you said something about Tesla. A quote by Nikola Tesla about reificating that lie, and that's a fake quote. I didn't find anything about that. Then you said something about Einstein's relativity being like thoroughly debunked. It's one of the most like solidly proven like theories in astrophysics. But even if Einstein's relativity is false, the Earth could still be a sphere, so it's completely tangential. You said something about NASA lying to us and like the German aerospace agency lying to us and doing it because of their budget. Fair enough, I guess, but like NASA was founded, I think, in the 1940s, so the lie has to go back like 2,000 years.
No, it wasn't.
Anyway, it would have to be founded after like the lie, like the big like overarching conspiracy already started.
Yeah, you're right.
Fair enough. Then the moon lander, you said something like there was no crater beneath the moon lander, so it would have jumped on the Earth, jumped on the moon. I didn't quite get that either. Then you said something about like Werner von Braun with like 3 Empire State Buildings. That's also a fake quote. Didn't find that either. Encyclopedia Americana, we'll get to that because I studied that extensively. Then something about the Antarctic Treaty and that it is impossible to go down there. We'll also get to that because that also plays into the Encyclopedia Americana that you cited. Then you said that like we can't get to Antarctica because they make us collect the excrement of our dogs. I think they do that. I think they don't want like dog excrement to be there, but that's because Antarctica is like supposed to be like a nature reservation. You can still go down there. It's like you can take trips to Antarctica. Tourists go there like all the time. You just have to fucking come back. There used to be airlines flying over there and everything. Then you said something about like there is no edge in your globe Earth model. And this is something that you can elaborate on later. I mean, I had the impression that Antarctica was the edge. It was like an ice wall. Then something about the distance to the horizon, and then you said something about the geographical edge of the globe. the globe doesn't have an edge. You said something about like the globe having a geographical edge. Globes don't have edges. It's a sphere, so you can keep walking on the sphere forward, unless you fall into the water, I suppose. But like globes don't have edges. Then something math only describes, it doesn't explain, which is fair enough. We can create hypotheses to like use the mathematics and like try to reach conclusions as to what it tells us. But I would like to talk about this Encyclopedia Americana 1958 article because it's like pretty central to like many flat Earth theories, and it of course doesn't say what you guys say it says. So how much time do I have? How much time do I have, moderator?
Oh, you got 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, so this article, and I have it like in its entirety. I can post it if you guys want. The critical quote is it describes like explorative flights over Antarctica essentially. So it like describes the process of charting Antarctica, and it describes like attempts to like, is there a waterway in the middle? Can we find it? There isn't. Like what ice shelves are where, what peninsulas are where. That's like, it's like a long ass article about like Norwegian and German and like Danish and British expeditions. And there is this passage about like an American expedition. So here it goes. In December 1955, the task force left New Zealand to set up 2 base stations in the Ross Sea area. Little America 5 was established at Cannon Bay, about 30 miles east of the Ross Ice Shelf from the Bay of Whales, and an air operations base was constructed at Hut Point on Ross Island in McMurdo Sound. 4 United States planes flew from New Zealand to McMurdo Sound on December 20th, 1955, made exploratory flights over unknown parts of the continent until January 18th, 1956, when they returned to New Zealand. These flights proved the inland areas to be featureless in character, with a dome 13,000 feet high at about latitude 80 degrees south, longitude 90 degrees east. New mountain ranges were located about latitude 85 degrees south, longitude 50 degrees west, reaffirming the observation made by Ronner in 1947. That's referenced like an earlier segment. So what this entry references with a dome is a geographic feature. You can actually Google it. It's on Wikipedia. It's called Dome Argus. So Dome Argus is essentially a geographic feature of Antarctica. It's at its highest, it's 4,093 meters high, which is 13,428 feet for our fellow Yankees. And it's located at 80 degrees 22 south and 77 degrees 21 east, which is about at where the Americans found it. And it doesn't mean like that there's a dome like in the sky that like goes up and like covers the earth. It means there's a hill. It's a hill. That's like what that thing says. And something interesting in that whole passage is it's impossible to go down there with like the assertion because of military presence, right? Like that's what you meant, and like the Antarctic Treaty, so they like guard like Antarctica from us with like their military forces. So what this very article, like what this very like segment that you cite actually says is, let me go to the full text. There we go. This is a bit earlier. Because of World War II, Antarctic exploration was at a standstill until 1946, when the United States Antarctic Development Project under Admiral Byrd with United States Navy Task Force 68, Operation High Jump, under Rear Admiral Richard H. Cruzen, sailed south with 13 ships, 21 aircraft, and 4,000 men to train Navy personnel in cold climate operations. During its 5-week stay in Antarctic waters, when Little America was reoccupied, flights were made south and east from the base in the Bay of Whales, and aerial mapping flights made from 2 seaplane tenders operating along the periphery of the continent covered essentially all of the Antarctic coasts, other than those of the Palmer Peninsula and Weddell Sea areas. So, this thing that you say supports your thesis that like Antarctica is like sealed off by this like overarching conspiracy of the various governments with like massive military forces, also says that they just casually send like dozens of ships, like dozens of aircraft and thousands of soldiers down there, and they just hope
1 minute.
that like no one leaks it. Like the amount of people who over the course of history have gone to Antarctica is in the 5-digit range. So over 10,000 individuals have gone there. And you would think that if it was an ice wall or the end of the world or the edge of the world or at least like sealed off by like governments so we can't find out that the Earth is flat, that you know we would find that. Okay, yeah, I think that's about it. I think I got everything. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now is open discussion or open dialogue.
All right.
Now,
So
now.
let me just correct you on a few things here.
Go ahead.
You started with Mesopotamia, and yes, they did draw circles. They did draw circles. We live on a circle. Flat earthers say it's a circle of some sorts, right? Some people think it's
How
an endless circle.
how
Okay.
would they have found out that it was a circle?
Well, because when you look up in the sky
Mm-hmm.
and you realize that the sun is doing circles around you,
Okay.
you kind of start thinking if the light is a circle, maybe we live on a circle. If it lights in a circle, if we can't see beyond whatever's lit, maybe it doesn't even exist. Let me just go on
So,
there.
for example, how the ancient Chinese found out is they observed lunar eclipses. So, in a lunar eclipse, in the
Right.
globe model, the Earth is of course spherical, so it is like a three-dimensional space, and
Yeah.
the moon and the sun can be on different sides of the Earth, and the sun, and because in the globe Earth model, I don't know about the flat Earth model, like if the moon like emits light from like on its own in your model, but like it doesn't. So
It does.
it only reflects light that comes from the sun,
No.
and it moves. In a lunar eclipse, it
No.
moves
See. Hold
into
on a
the
second.
it moves
See.
into it moves into the shadow of the Earth, and then you see that shadow is it's round. So the Chinese
Gotcha.
were like, the Earth has a round shadow.
Oh
Hmm.
wow, yeah, right. So, but have you ever noticed that the shadow round, but it's almost like it cuts off right where like almost seeming like the Earth is just as big as the moon. If you're thinking about the shadow, let's not even talk about the shadows. Let's talk about the moonlight itself, right? If the moon were to reflect light, the light that it reflects
Hmm.
has to have the same properties, okay, of the light being shined upon it. So, first of all, the
No, it
light,
doesn't.
yes, it does. That is. Come on, man. I mean, these are things that we could just. I mean, normal physics states that. Normal physics states that. If
No.
I'm going to shine a light into a mirror, if I'm going to shine a blue light into a mirror,
Uh
am I going to get a red light coming out the other side? Am I going to get a red reflection? Am I
huh.
going to get a blue light reflection?
If the mirror itself is colored, then the color perception of the light might change. Yeah.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that the sun's light is antiseptic and the moon's light is septic. So that in itself, right
That's not
there.
what I said. No.
No, no, no. I'm telling you. The sun's light is antiseptic. The moon's
Okay.
light is septic.
What do you
Okay.
think those terms mean?
What do you think those terms mean?
I have no idea what in your mind like antiseptic and septic means.
Antiseptic. It's pretty simple.
Uh
Set
huh.
something. Set something outside in the sun.
Okay.
Okay. See if any bacteria grows on it. Okay. Now set, and there might be some bacteria that does grow on it, right? Now set that same substance, okay, be a piece of ham in the moonlight and see how much more bacteria grows on it. Okay. That's what I mean by septic and antiseptic. And when you think about the
Well,
moonlight, the moonlight
can
is the moonlight is
can you
cold.
answer that question? Like how much more bacteria grows on it in the moonlight? I'm curious.
A
I've
lot more.
never
Look
like.
it up. A lot more. Look it up. Just like you told me to look up all these things. These are all. Listen, if you're going to throw things out there without putting links up, I could say this. And all this, you could look it up. The
Okay.
moonlight is
Calm
cold.
down.
The
Calm
moonlight
down.
is cold. The sun's light is warm. The moonlight, you are literally colder while you're in the moonlight than when you're in the shadow of the moon. That has been
So.
tested over and over again. Okay, these are things that the moonlight is not reflecting. The moonlight is plasma. I have a link here from a gentleman in 1958 that talks about it. The beauty of it is the year is 1958. Okay, Admiral Byrd. You talked about Admiral Byrd, and this is the one that I really
Hmm.
wanted to bring up because that's an awesome one, right? So here's Admiral Byrd in a rare TV interview. Admiral Byrd, right? And this is I'm gonna quote him. Okay, he was being asked if there was land left to be explored, and he said this is right after Operation Deep Freeze, right between 1955 1956. Okay,
Right.
strangely enough, there is left today an area as big as the U.S. that has never been seen by human beings, and that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from the middle of America. I think it's astonishing that there's an area that big to be left unexplored. This is back in 1955. 55, 56. Maybe the interview probably would have been done 1957, I would say, because this is when he got back from that. Okay, these are all things. Now you say that, oh, that's the military presence. That's the military presence I talk about. No, I'm not talking about the 1955 military
Can you
presence.
be specific? Like, what do you think Admiral Byrd meant by that when he said?
Well, if we look up and that I'm gonna, I was trying to find today and I can't find, but I I can email it to you once I do find it.
Mm-hmm.
Chinese people. There was this old map.
We're not talking about Chinese people. We're talking about
No,
Admiral Byrd. What does he mean when he
wait,
says?
wait.
Answer the question.
I am answering your question,
Okay,
dude.
okay,
I'm
go
answering your
ahead,
question.
go ahead, go ahead.
Chinese people have drawn a map. The center of the map looked like a azimuthal equidistant map, the AE map, right? While the outside of the map had, or not the outside, but the middle to the outside, a border, just looking like how we say the Antarctic wall is. Beyond that, there was more land. Okay. Now, I'm not
Okay.
saying that there is or there isn't, but if you want to think about another conspiracy, you want to see how really they to control economy is by having more land beyond the pole. That's why I'm saying a lot of us might think that there's an edge, and a lot of us don't. And I don't really have, because I live based off of true science, what I can observe, what it's something that has been observed, that has been repeated, and we can't observe it. You cannot go beyond the 60th parallel, and when you do, you have to submit to government research and to government standards. What I meant by picking up your dog's poop is they don't allow you to use motorized vehicles. They don't allow you to use self-propelled motorized vehicles either, because you might step on the vegetation beyond the snow. They don't allow you to use dog sleds with dogs because they don't want your dogs pooping everywhere. Okay. And even if you pick up the excrement, they cannot truly weigh out, because at the end of the day, you have to come back and you have to weigh your poop. Okay. To make sure you picked up all your poop. Okay, these are all these parameters that they put around it, and yes, people visit Antarctica all the time. They visit the Cape, the coast, right there. They put a little pole up. You visit, the South Pole. You are
So they
so
can
far.
go beyond the 60th parallel.
Yeah, no. If you really look about it, that cape comes right to the 60th parallel. When you start trying to go deeper into the 60th parallel, anywhere beyond that, that cape comes out a little bit. Okay, that's all tourist, man. You can book it. Yeah, I mean, I've tried to book it if I could afford it, or
Do you mean like Palmerland or Grahamland? Is that like the
no,
thing you
it's a
mean?
cape that comes off of there, and I can't remember two of them, and there's two
Like
that they go to tours.
the peninsula that juts towards Argentina is what you mean.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah,
that one.
that's Grahamland. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Continue.
they take people there. Okay, they
They
don't take.
take.
You don't go any deeper. When you talk about, you go look up. You talked about Admiral. Go look up Admiral Byrd. Go look up the videos he made when he talked about what it takes to get through, to the other side. It gets to the point, he says, where you're walking and you can't move because the wind is pushing you as hard as you can push forward with your legs. So if I was a creator and I didn't want my creation to know that they're inside of a bubble because they don't need to, right? But I need them in the bubble because I need to protect them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would I let you get to the border? Would I let you get to the edge? It's just like going up. Okay, when you go up high enough, it is this is a known fact, and NASA harvests it all the time. You have liquid helium up there. You know how hard it is to travel through liquid helium?
Wait, in the Earth's atmosphere?
Beyond that, there is no Earth's atmosphere. Let's talk about atmosphere, right?
Wait. Okay, so where's the liquid helium?
The liquid helium is beyond the ionosphere. The liquid helium, this is flat Earth model. See, the thing is, you're trying to wrap your mind
Okay,
around what I'm saying while still thinking of it as a ball
let's
with
go.
an atmosphere.
Let's go back to Admiral Byrd. You know what? We're not going to talk about the fucking liquid helium.
Well,
So,
we could talk
so
about, let's talk
we
about
were.
your escaping atmosphere, okay, that only gravity is holding down, but we all know that nowhere here on Earth can you have an
I
open container next to a vacuum and still
do you
have
do you
the
know what
container have pressure.
like the phrase "moving the goalposts" means?
I'm not moving the goalposts.
Okay, so because
I'm bringing up everything.
what I asked you is
Let's
like
go back to Admiral Byrd.
what
Okay,
did Admiral Byrd mean? So
what did Admiral Byrd mean? That
I
there's more
what
land beyond the pole. That there's more land that
so
he finally was able to explore beyond the pole that no human eye has ever seen.
okay, so what he said, according to your quote, and I haven't been able to find it, so it might be another fake quote that you're throwing at me,
Here we
but that's
go. Here
fine.
we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I got you, buddy.
Okay. Preferably in text form because I don't
I
want to like
can't. No,
look
it's not in
for it.
text form because it's a TV show. This is a TV show.
Okay, so I'll just take your word for it, all right? So he says that beyond the north, so beyond the South Pole, from the middle of America, there is
Hmm.
like a land unexplored.
Hmm.
So
Land unexplored that is the size of America, and
that
it
is the
is
size of
and it is
America.
right under. It is geographic from America, from Middle America. Sorry, because
Okay.
on a flat Earth, everything from the middle out is south.
What? Everything from the middle out is itself?
Everything from the middle out is south. The North Pole is in the center. Everything from there, when you walk, you're walking south,
Okay. So
right?
that's not what he said. He didn't say it's south of America. It said it's on the other side of the South Pole.
His quote, his
So,
quote, his quote is exactly like this. Strangely enough, there is left today an area
mhm.
as big as the U.S. that has never been seen by a human eye or by a human being, and that's
Mhm.
beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America.
Yes.
I think it's
Okay. There we
astonishing
go.
that there is an area as big as that unexplored.
So it's a. So he obviously talks from a globe Earth model, and he
Hmm.
essentially draws a line from Middle America, like I assume the shortest line, which probably would go across South America to like the South Pole, so like
Hmm.
90 degrees southern latitude, and
Hmm.
then beyond that, which is like I guess on the side of Antarctica that's towards Australia.
Right.
And the reason he talks about this is because this is Wilkes Land and the Grove Mountains. And as it happens, Wilkes Land and the Groves Mountains is the exact position of the dome that is described in the Encyclopedia Americana. This is the territory that he and his US Navy task force were exploring on behalf, like, I think it was an international geographical year where like all the countries came together and were trying to like contribute to like science and like trying to make new discoveries. So the
Now,
USA was like, we're
so
gonna send the Navy.
what land did he find that's the size of the United States on the other side?
So, okay, I I don't know if he can like say,
Unexplored. This is 1957, and it's
yeah,
still
okay.
unexplored.
So it's not still unexplored.
He
It's
just said he in the quote. Watch it.
yeah, in 1957 and the 1958 Encyclopedia Americana entry.
Yeah, and then
Talk,
1959, you can't find those. And then all of a
what?
sudden, 1962, we have NASA kicking into gear, going to the moon, everything.
Okay,
NASA
moving.
came about. You said NASA came about way back.
Moderator, please, can you stop him? He's moving the goalposts again. It's very
Oh,
frustrating. So, the the land beyond the South Pole from the middle of America by drawing a direct line like on the globe Earth model is the land that they explored, the dome of 13,000 feet, Dome Argus as it's called. That is, I don't know if it's the size of America. Back then they let me, you know what, you fucking like laughing at me. Okay, let me measure it. Let's see how like big this is. So it's like about 2,000 kilometers by 1,000 kilometers is the land they explored back then. Not nearly the size of America because Antarctica is pretty small. Back
right.
then they thought it was bigger. All right,
Hmm.
like just because they were wrong at sometimes doesn't mean the Earth is flat. So
No, of course not.
what Admiral Byrd is talking
So
about
how
is
many times do you have to be wrong for the Earth to finally be flat? How many things will have to prove you wrong on? Like
interesting.
here, let's not move the goalpost. Let's move beyond this Admiral Byrd thing because you obviously are
Do you
stumbling on it. So
do you
let's
want?
move to the atmosphere. You talked about atmosphere.
No. Okay, if you want to like. Currently, I'm in the destructive role, so you are making claims and I'm trying to debunk them. How about
Okay,
I
fine.
move into?
I'll make a claim. You want to debunk my claim? Debunk this
No,
claim, please.
that's what I've been doing like very
You have
successfully for the
you
past
haven't
30
debunked
minutes.
you haven't debunked not one of my claims. You're stumbling on one, and you can't
Uh,
even find a land beyond
so
Antarctica right now.
I I have like revealed several of your like asserted quotes to be fake. I have
You talked about
revealed.
one encyclopedia.
I have revealed. Yeah, the one that was like the crown piece in your argument.
What quote was fake again? The Nikola Tesla quote. You want me to put it on here?
The
All these
Nikola
quotes you're
Tesla
saying is fake. I'm putting up here. Let me
the,
just start
the Nikola
putting up
Tesla
all
quote
these quotes.
I assume to be fake, and the Werner von Braun quote as well. But
The
um yeah, I
A
can find
funny
it. Like
thing here, guys. You guys can tell this for yourself. Go watch. I'm gonna put it up here. Go watch. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. That's the best way to do it because if instead of hitting you 50,000 quotes and 50,000 things that none of you are going to go read. Go watch this video, and you're going to see all the things that Werner von Braun said out of his own mouth. See, I don't give you guys quotes. I'm going to give you guys out of the mouth of people. He's reading from Admiral
I
Byrd
would
on
love to
an
see.
encyclopedia, and you didn't want to watch the one of Admiral Byrd telling you about the land beyond the poles.
I explained to you what he means by the land beyond the poles.
No,
and you
didn't.
weren't able to
No, you
debunk
didn't.
that.
He literally said a land the size of the United States. Well, this one's not nearly the size of the United States, but it's because, and you just said something just completely fallacious. I don't even know what you said. It's just here's the point. You're trying to
Is Admiral
nab,
Byrd a god?
you're trying to nab these little things. Let's move on beyond Admiral.
It's not little things. Like,
let's move beyond Admiral Byrd, right? Let's move beyond Admiral Byrd. If
let's
there
move
is
beyond
no
Admiral
dome.
Byrd. If
Well,
there is no
you
dome.
wanted to hit the encyclopedia and the dome, right? And you're saying the dome is now this area. You don't think that if somebody found out that there was a mix-up and they put dome, now they don't want you to know there's a dome, they wouldn't call an area dome.
The dome is on Wikipedia, dude.
It's on Wikipedia, exactly. You know, I could go write something on Wikipedia and just make it up. You guys, listen. So let's talk about air pressure. Let's talk about
air.
Let's talk about it.
No,
let's talk about it.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah, because you say there's no dome. You say there's no.
Yes, there is a dome. The dome is a hill at about the position described in the Encyclopedia Americana entry of 1958. They are correct that there was a
dome is the one beyond, the one around the whole Earth. That's what I say. So there's the difference, right? My dome covers the Earth. Your dome is an area, or whatever it is that you think it might be. So I'm telling you, we have a 14.7 psi atmosphere at sea level. Okay, please show me anywhere else on Earth that you can have an open container with air pressure on the inside next to a vacuum. We also say hot air rises, right? If hot air is rising in this atmosphere while the atmosphere is supposedly moving with the Earth, the hot air not only has to rise, but it has to speed up. That's the physics of it. It has to speed up to be able to keep up with the Earth the further it goes out. Okay, so as you can see, your atmospheric pressure, the definition of air pressure is the molecules, the amount of pressure or the amount of room being condensed inside of a container, and the molecules are now pushing against the container, and that's how you read the pressure, right? But we have atmospheric pressure while still being next to a vacuum. I say the reason we have atmospheric pressure is because there is a dome that holds the atmosphere in, and if you go to the top of that
13,000 feet high in Antarctica.
I never said 13,000 feet high. That's what the encyclopedia says.
Yeah, why does the encyclopedia say that?
I don't know why it says that, because maybe at that point it might be 13,000 feet high, because if you think about it, Antarctica might be pretty close to the edge of where the dome might meet the ground. I don't know. See, I didn't write the encyclopedia, but what I do know is that.
Did you read the article?
Of course, I read the article over and over again. It's actually very, very, very monotonous. For the 3 pages before that, they tell you how they do all the explorations. But you don't have to read that. You can go read the Admiral Byrd's journals himself. Okay, I think those are way more interesting. But the whole point is,
do they say the Earth is flat?
No, of course he's not going to say the Earth is flat. Do you not understand? Like, look at how the logic.
No, I don't understand.
Admiral Byrd in 1958 figures out, hey, there's extra land over there. What can we do with this extra land? Well, I wonder if this extra land has oil, gold. What if there is no edge? What if it's just an infinite plane and they have us contained, right? At that moment, economy, the economy is just a fabrication, right? I don't know, right? Because like I said, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, but what do you mean? What am I talking about? Gold right now is expensive, right? Why? Because it's rare. What if gold wasn't rare?
I know.
What if gold wasn't rare anymore? What if you could go beyond the pole, okay, and go get free gold over there? Right?
Yes, I love. Okay, let's stick with that story. So The ancient
Let's not stick with
civilizations
the
knew
atmosphere story. You see, you see how you
no 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 no
you
no
see
no
how
no
you
no
cherry pick? You're moving
it's
the goalposts, buddy. You're moving the goalposts.
it's fantastic. I love the thing with the gold beyond the poles. I love
No, no,
this.
no. Hold on, but you're moving the goalposts. I started with the atmosphere. You might want to. You might
No,
want to.
we are still on Admiral Byrd, by the way. I still want to talk about the dome, but
We're
I'll
talking
pick
about the dome.
I'll pick up this talking point of yours. So there's gold beyond the poles. So
Oh, gold,
the
oil,
gold
diamond.
or natural resources, great material wealth that like the people don't want you to know about because otherwise the value of the natural resources we have would plummet. Okay, fair enough. So the ancient civilizations knew that the earth was flat, and then the ancient Greeks, ancient Chinese, and ancient Indians independently figured out that there was oil and gold to be had beyond the Antarctic wall, and so they started weaving this conspiracy of the globe Earth so that later the United States military in the 1950s could keep us from getting that oil and gold. Now I understand. That's a fantastic explanation. Okay, let's go back to the fucking dome. So
Nope.
You debunked that one completely, man.
yeah, it's completely ridiculous.
Right.
So if you read the article like you claimed,
Right.
Ted, closing statement time. FlatRoast goes first.
oh, come again? Can you repeat that?
Closing statement time. FlatRoast goes first. I'm telling you guys.
Okay, fair enough. Go for it.
All right. So plainly tonight, I mean, we've seen here where there is no, he has no explanation for the things that I'm saying. I'm currently post something on here and it's not letting me. I guess it's coming from Google. But if you guys Google, let me see what I Googled to find this because it's pretty simple. Map of extra lands beyond the poles. Right. It's as simple as that. It'll come up. And are these accurate? Like I said, I don't know. I haven't been there. I'm not gonna say what Michio Kaku says. And even afterwards doesn't even apologize
The
for
globe head?
saying things like this. Michio Kaku, yeah, the globe head. Michio Kaku says that let me give you the quote here, exactly, so you don't think that I'm misquoting here. But Michio Kaku pretty much pretty much says that his field doesn't even rely on the primitive notion of the scientific method. So now the scientific method, which is actually science, is now primitive because they rely on leaps of logic and on flying at the seam of your pants. And he says things like this. I'm gonna post it right here because I have the actual quote.
Supposed to make a closing statement, by the way.
So like I said, in closing, I'll post it on here. I I um I thank you for coming tonight and attempting to debunk me. You pretty much did nothing of the sort. I can easily prove all my quotes were correct. I'll post them all on here right now so everybody can see it. If you guys like to post it to the YouTube channel afterwards, that's great. If you'd like to come on here again, we can debate on one subject and one subject only, so we don't move the goalposts. And I would love to do that. I would love to debate you on something like light and things like that. You said you were going to debunk me on the inverse square law, and you didn't.
Oh yeah,
That's
we
not
didn't get to that.
yeah, it's not debunkable. It's not because it's
Oh,
math.
it is.
It's math. It's simple math. So and anybody could do it. Anybody could do it.
Math.
Look up the inverse square law. Look up how much the lux rating of the moon is here on Earth, and then really tell me if somebody can land on a 14.7 quadrillion illuminated surface. Tell me if somebody could really land a moon lander on that without completely forget roasting his retina, roasting his whole face. He would be incinerated. That's like going into a star. So it obviously proves that the moon is not 386,000 miles away. The moon is way closer than that. The moon produces its own light. It's cold plasma. And you guys can look that up. There's quotes from physicists all over the place that say it's cold plasma. Okay, don't think that science is only on the other side. Maybe science might not be saying the Earth is flat, but science easily says that we do not rotate. We are geocentric, and the moon has its own light. That's it.
Okay, Ted, your turn.
All right, that was something. It was very enjoyable. Starting from the fact that my my opponent never was able to stay on a single topic. I I think I presented some of the things he rips out of context. On some things I wanted to talk all about Antarctic geography and Dome Argus for the next 10 minutes, but I suppose we can't do that. Um, regarding his closing statement, of course, the the moon does not emit its own light, and of course, it's not like 20 miles away from Earth. I don't know what it's from, and I don't remember what number he said. The moon does not emit cold plasma, and obviously, it doesn't like has like 14 million lux of light emitting from it, burning all astronauts that would step on it. Um, but that's fine. I think that this debate suffered from several administrative issues, and I'll bring them up later to the moderator and to the debate oversight team. But yeah, it's quite an enjoyable time, I would say, and go flat Earth, I guess. We gotta get that. We gotta get that golden oil beyond the ice wall. Thank you very much.
Okay, Q&A time. Oh man, you said you were gonna get the queue set up, right?
I only got little bit left, guys. I allotted enough time just before 5, so like since we're gonna start at 5. Sorry for that. I live a very very busy life, guys.
Are you not gonna stay for the Q&A?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay for the Q&A a few minutes, but I'm about to have to get out of here pretty soon. So right now I'm posting. I don't know if you guys even care, but he wanted Ted. You wanted a map of flat Earth map, and like I said, I don't know if it's accurate, but I can tell you one thing. The thing that I just posted right now, if you guys can listen to it, it's in Spanish. So sorry for that, but it's more towards the end of that little video I just sent there. But it's a map that's been created using the universal time for every using the Terminator, every country's the Terminator line, that when it crosses every country or every point of reference that they have or that they made at current universal, they were able to map the world that way. So it's a little more accurate than the AE map, is what they say. I can't, like I said, I can't attest to it, but I can tell you one thing, that's the first thing that came to mind for me and for a lot of my friends when we thought about mapping out the flat Earth. And these guys say they did it with a computer program. So
Then they must be correct.
no, it's not they must be correct, but I'd rather go with somebody that says they used an observation and calculations and things that you can see with your calculate than Michio Kaku, and I put it up there. Michio Kaku stating that cosmology is off by the measure. He says if and I misquote the first part. He might say if science is off by a measure of 1/100th, we say that we're completely off or the theory is no good. He says cosmology is off by the measure of 1.47 times 10 to the 120th power. That's a number that we can't even fathom, and that's how far cosmology is off. So see, if I'm gonna rely on something, I'm gonna rely on something where somebody said, hey, listen, you can watch this video, I measured this is how I saw it.
Look, man, if the best you can come up with is like a popular scientist who lives on globe Earth, then yeah.
I can come up with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I can come up with a lot of these guys. These aren't popular scientists that just believe.
Famous flat earther Neil deGrasse Tyson, yeah.
No, man, what are you talking about? I'm using your own. These are their own votes.
Am I up?
They're guessing. He literally says the words leaps of logic.
Hello?
We don't use the scientific method. We use leaps of logic.
Someone has a question. Go ahead now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my question's for FlatRoast. So, with a spotlight sun, could you draw me a path the sun takes to which every observer could watch it go 15 degrees in the sky from east to west at all times?
Yeah, that I can show you the model. I'll send it to you right here. I can show you how the model looks like. This is a video of a guy who did a decent job presenting what the model would look like. The spotlight sun, you're not. I don't think you're understanding the nature of how the sun would work and how the flat Earth flat Earth environment is an electromagnetic universe. It's an electric universe. Okay,
But you can still see the sun, right?
you can still see the sun, but you're seeing the sun through the ether. Okay, you're
What is
seeing the
the
sun.
ether?
So the ether is what Michael Moore Gale proved with their experiments. They proved
That
that
doesn't tell me what it is. That told me who proved it. What is
See,
the
why
ether?
are you the same guy as last time, dude? Or is this King Xerxes?
No, this is not King Xerxes. I just want to know
Oh, it's
what the
Nash.
ether
Okay, I'm
is.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm explaining to you what the ether is. The ether is the field that everything moves through. Okay, it is a field. It's the field that everything propagates through. Okay, it's the field that when you guys talk about gravity, when you guys, I'm not going to be like one of these. This no, what the phenomenon that we see, the acceleration that we see, does exist, but it's not what you guys say it is. It's not mass attracting mass. First of all, if you look at what Einstein said, then it wouldn't even be that, right? He had to give space a property and then define it through space, where space has no definition. Space has no property. So and that's a Nikola Tesla quote, and that's the one quoted, and I can find you that space has
Space
no
has
property.
no definition under
Space
Einstein.
has no property. No, Nikola
No,
Tesla
Space
said
has no property.
but
space
what?
has
What
no
does
property.
Nikola
We're gonna.
Tesla have to do with it?
Nikola Tesla said that
Like whenever you like
Einstein
make
is
something up, do you
absurd.
say Tesla?
Nikola Tesla said Einstein is absurd for trying to give a property to space. Space has no properties. He tried to say
Going.
that the space-time curvature is what created.
We are going to move on to the questionnaire.
Uh-huh.
Question.
I'm still trying to answer it. Well, let me just post this thing on here, and you can see it yourself.
You still didn't like. So the ether is the field that everything moves through.
The field, yeah. So when you say something emits light, nothing emits light. Okay, and these are the things that you need to look up.
Arrow isn't working.
We have.
And can you stay? Can you stay on the ether? So the ether is the field everything moves through.
I'm
Okay.
staying
So
on the ether. I'm staying on
no,
the ether.
no, you're not.
Okay.
No, you switch to light
The
and light.
ether is because light propagates through the ether. Okay, that's how
So
you
how does
know that there is
how-
light has no speed. Light has a induction, through the field, which is the ether. Okay, you know that because when light goes through glass, it slows down and then it speeds back up. Okay, how does light speed back up? They can't tell you that. Okay, and the atomistic
yes, they
world.
can.
Okay, please tell me so. Please tell me how light speeds back up.
So a photon, which like carries the light, like it moves at the speed of light. It doesn't interact with anything that could slow it down.
What is that again? The tachyon?
A pation, a photon.
A photon. So you're saying okay? So light. So you want the light duality? Light is not a photon. Light is only a wave. Okay. If could you imagine? Like light being a photon. When you take a picture, you capture light. Are you capturing photons? Do you have to take off the lens and shake out the photons later on? When they get too fill on your when they fill up your set. When you're capturing light, you're only capturing a field modality. You're capturing the dielectric longitudinal wave through the ether. That's what you're seeing. Nothing emits light. Okay, light is just a propagation. Light is a I guess you could call it almost like um, a symptom of what else is happening, which is the dielectric meeting the magnetic field. Both of that together, light is just a hybrid of dielectricity and magnetism.
Everything you just said was wrong. And like, how does the
Everything I just said,
but like,
Question.
can you
comes
explain
from
to me like
everything I just said comes from Faraday, comes from Maxwell, comes from Oliver Heaviside, comes from Nikola Tesla, comes from people nowadays like Eric Dollard. These are all scientists that brought us the whole electrical field theory. These are the fathers of electrical field theory. They all believed in the ether. They all believed in light the way that I'm talking about it right now. Okay, all of them thought that light being a quantitative measure is a complete
FlatRoast,
absurdity.
I'm
you're
gonna be a
still lying? By the way,
Dan has a question.
FlatRoast,
go
all
ahead.
except
Go
for
ahead.
the globe. You have no point. Dan is up next.
I gotta go, guys.
Minutes.
you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious, dude. This was supposed to start at 5. They told me a certain time. We're now 35. I gotta go. I
Okay,
have a
bye.
client waiting for me.
All right, man. Take care, buddy.
Hey, I'm sorry, guys. Gotta go. This is how my schedule works. Next time, if we start on time, I'll be here for the whole session. Hope you guys take care. It was like Ted said. It was nice to meet you, Ted. I think it was a
Likewise.
very pleasant conversation. We could definitely continue it again. I'm definitely would be up
I'm
for
looking
a
forward
round
to
2.
that. All right, buddy. Take care.
All right, man. Take care.
I go.
I want to fucking die! Holy shit!